Hi, I'm Elspeth Jackson, the author of Rag Rugs, Pillows and More. In today's tutorial, I'm just going to be explaining a little bit more about our Ragged Life Rag Rug scissors, because I've had quite a few questions from people because you don't really know what they are and why they're different to normal fabric scissors, or why I think they're probably the best way for doing your fabric preparation for making a rag rug. So I thought I'd just start with all of the basics. For anyone who doesn't know anything about rag rugging, there are largely two different techniques that you can do. I call this one loopy rag rugging and this one here shaggy rag rugging. It involves quite a lot of fabric preparation to be able to make a rag rug itself. So in the shaggy technique of rag rugging, a 100 by 60 centimetre rug will take you roughly about 25 t-shirts worth of fabric, which is quite a lot. And you have to actually cut all of those t-shirts up in the first place. So it obviously makes a lot of sense to choose the most efficient, quickest and easiest way to do all of that fabric preparation. So I just want to highlight a couple of product features about our Ragged Life Rag Rug scissors. The first one is that the blades are made using Japanese stainless steel, which means that they're excellent quality and really, really hard wearing. A second little feature is just the fact that our blades are micro-serrated. I'm no scissor expert, but I've been reliably informed that this means that they get a good grip on the fabric, which is one of the reasons why they can go through so many layers at the same time. Another great feature of our rag rug scissors is the fact that we've got soft rubber handles, and it means that you don't get tired over time in the same way as you would with harder scissors. So I've played around with a few different tools. I'm a craft lover, so I often have a lot of things lying around. And I think I've come to the conclusion that scissors are probably the best way to go. I've used things like rotary cutters in the past, and they're really great when you're working with bits of fabric that are perhaps quite square and generally quite kind of uniform. But when you're deconstructing things like t-shirts or items of clothing, you really can't do it with a rotary cutter as they're very unusual shapes. Also, if you look at one of my other videos on how we prepare our fabric for rag rugging, we cut through multiple layers of fabric at the same time to save on time in the fabric preparation stages. And with a rotary cutter, you can't really go through all that many layers at the same time without it partially cutting through some of the layers and making your life a little bit harder. I've also played around with some slightly more scary looking tools, things like this, which is a, I can't remember what it's called, like a cordless cutter. And although it does cut through things quite easily, I am often worried that I'm going to cut myself with the blade because it does kind of shift around quite a bit. And just the noise that it makes just drove me mad. One of the questions I get asked quite often is, okay, you're plugging these rag rug scissors. I've got really good dressmaking or fabric scissors at home. Why can't I just use them? Well, sure, you can use them for rag rugging, but one of the things I always say is the fact that dressmaking scissors are really expensive. They're made for precision, so they're made for cutting really, really accurately through one layer for dressmaking. And they're not about sheer power. So they're not really meant to be used going through lots of layers of fabric at the same time. When you use your dressmaking scissors for things like that, cutting through lots of layers, it tends to blunt the blades over time, which obviously isn't great because you've paid quite a lot of money. And when you go back to doing something like dressmaking, they're not as sharp as you'd want them to be. So even though there's only so many tools we can have, I would say if you're planning to do rag rugging, rag rug scissors are worth their weight in gold. And I'll show you why now. So to do both of the techniques of rag rugging, the loopy technique and the shaggy technique, your first stage is to cut long strips of fabric from your pieces of clothing. So this was actually an old piece of t-shirt, you can see here. So the first stage is we always fold it, and you don't have to be very accurate, until you've got a nice tube like so. And I could even fold it one more time if I wanted to. With the rag rug scissors, you can cut your strips by cutting through all of these layers at the same time. So you can see how easily these scissors cut through so many different layers of the fabric. And that creates perfect width strips for doing rag rugging with either technique. Yes, t-shirt material is probably one of the most common things that we rag rug with, but I just want to show you the sheer force of these scissors, because you don't have to use really thin fabrics with these. They cut through pretty much anything. But this is denim, and I folded it. Actually, I'll show you. So that's folded in half once, folded in half twice, 3 times, 4 times. So it's pretty darn thick. Once again, rag rug scissors just make absolutely easy work and cut through it like cutting through butter. As you can probably tell, I absolutely adore these scissors. I hope I've explained some of the questions and answers that you may have had to do with them. But if you do rag rugging, if you do lots of fabric prep, they are absolutely the way to go. And you can buy them on our Ragged Life website. Or if you've got any questions or aren't sure, just give me an email or give me a bell and I will try and answer any questions you may have. And I hope you found this useful.